Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of the 275 GTP4 restoration. Now in the first part of this video, I was basically answering all the questions that I've gotten on the 288 GTO, which is behind us here, and they said, hey, what do you do beforehand? How do you approach it? How do you know what you're going to do? And specifically in that video, we talked about a couple different panels, but they wanted to see the back story. So I did the back story on this one. Now, for part 2, we're going to talk about how to actually polish it, and I'll show you my new camera view, and it's going to be pretty cool. But in the last part of the first video, we talked about claying, and as you can see here, this clay bar is gross. I like to do the claying while you're washing it and use the lubrication at that point. For this one here, we're going to go through all the steps, and you're going to need to use some spray wax. So you take your clay bar, all right? You get lubed up a little bit with the spray wax. So I'm just going to do this little section here to demonstrate. So you got to use a little bit of lubrication, so it's a lot of product. And then you're going to go in light, straight motions, no circles. And you're basically going to decontaminate the paint. Now the car looks pretty good right now, but I'll show you with my Brinkman that there are a ton of scratches in it, and I can feel with my hand right now that it is picking up a bunch of, oh boy, yeah, it is picking up a bunch of, let me wipe that dry so you can see. It's not much, but there is a bit of darkness there. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up. So now what I'm doing is kind of pulling out all the bad stuff inside the skin or inside the paint, which is what we call contamination, and then I'll tape everything off, and then we'll be ready to polish the paint. And as you can see here, this clay bar is gross, and it's off of this car. So if a non-car person walked up and they looked at it, they'd be like, wow, the car's really shiny and wonderful and amazing, but once I clayed it, look at all the gunk that came out of the pores. So right off the bat, I wanted to explain that to you. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to use a microfiber cutting pad, and I'll tell you why I've chosen a particular polisher over another. But as you can see, one is clean and one is dirty. Now this one is, over time they're just going to get dirty, but this was only after 1 or 2 passes. And the thing was, on that car that this was used on, it wasn't clayed. So if I didn't clay this car and I started to use the microfiber cutting pad, because the fingers and the fibers, they actually do, in theory, pull some of it out. Not as much as the clay does, but they will pull out some contamination as well as polishing the paint, kind of 2 separate things. But what happens is it gunks up, and these little fibers get kind of chunky and nasty, and you have to do a lot of blowing them out with air and cleaning them out. So not only is clay great because it doesn't, you're kind of pulling everything out of the paint, and it's fresh and clean, it actually saves your pads as well. So that's another reason why claying is so important. So the next little thing I want to talk about is, normally, so on the GTO behind us there, I use the Grows polisher here, the DA polisher, and it's got tons of torque. It's a great tool. I love this tool, but the reason why I used it is because that paint was extremely soft. Now in part 1, if you haven't seen it, go back and check it out. In part 1, we sort of acted like, detectives, so to speak, to kind of figure out what was going on in this paint. And normally I walked in here knowing, I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to do a 67 288. I'm thinking it's going to be original paint. I'm going to go with the Grows DA because I don't want a ton of power, because there's going to be paint transfer coming off because it's original. It's Ferrari's. This pad's going to turn red. Very common, like the GTO. But once I investigated and figured out, and more importantly measured, and found that it was just all over the place, that this car had been repainted in modern times. So there's not going to be any paint transfer. So what I can do is, what I didn't think I was going to do, now I'm going to do it because I'm going to save some time, is I'm going to use my Rupes polisher. This happens to be a 21. A lot of you have asked me what size. This is 21. I'd love to get a 15 and even the smaller ones, but like I said, they are pretty pricey. But for someone in my field, or a professional detailer, now this is going to pay off for me because I'm going to be able to do this a lot faster. Would the Grows be able to do it? No problem, of course, and no sweat too, but it's going to take a lot more time. So this is where the Rupes is going to be pretty cool. So I'll put the camera on, and we'll be able to do this car in much faster time, much safer. Normally I wouldn't use the Rupes on such a sensitive car, but because it's been repainted after we've done this detective work, now I'm definitely going to use the Rupes. So let's get started with that. This is going to be fun. All right, so I got my Rupes polisher and I got microfiber cutting pad on there. I put a little bit of compound in there. I'm rubbing it in with my hand. I've already squirted a little bit of spray wax on there to prime it a bit. I have it on about 4.5. We don't need to go too crazy because this is powerful. And I put a little line here just so we can show before and after. I'm going to do this little spot, spread it around just a bit, and then, of course, hang on. All right, so we'll take our microfiber towel, fold it into 4s, just give it a quick wipe. Oh yeah, and that looks great. That looks unbelievable. All right, so what I'll do is I'll pull the camera in, and again, this hasn't been polished. This hasn't done we haven't done any of that. This is just before and after. Quick 2 seconds with the Rupes, and I'll show you the difference. So, all right, I'm behind the camera now, and here's the line. So this is the side we did, and this is the side we didn't do. Now if you look into the light, you're going to see it's a little bit whiter here. And remember, we talked about that in the 288 video, because I haven't polished this yet. So as you can see, it's a little bit whiter than this side, but as we go across here, so you look into that, it looks pretty good. Let me focus, see how we start to get the love marks in there and the swirls. Hopefully that's popping up for us. On camera it's hard to see, but now as I float back here, let's focus that, boom. See how it's nice and you don't really see any of that? We'll do it one more time. Let me focus on that little mark. Right, there's the mark, and there's, it's not horrible. Most people wouldn't notice, but crazy people like us are gonna notice that. So there you go. And I did that in, let me back off. So I did that in next to no time. And I'm not sure if it's coming out, but you can see this is a little bit whiter, and that's a little bit deeper red. But what we're gonna do is take off a few layers here. I'm using, it's a little bit fictitious. I'm taking off very, very little. And then I'm gonna polish this out, and it's really gonna pop. So we'll do another video, you know, after I'm done polishing the whole car, of the next step, which is, and I'll leave this here, we'll just polish this area, and it'll really pop out. So you know what, let's do that right now. All right, well, I'm gonna polish this up real quick to show you a big difference. I put a bit of polish on here, green foam pad, it's primed. What I'm gonna do is kick down the Rupes to about 4, just a little bit less, doesn't need so much power. Just kind of get a bunch of that off and go to town. All right, now after the polish, you see the line again right here? See how this side looks brighter than that? And I never touched any, you know, I didn't touch the other side. See how it instantly changed? Now, 5 seconds ago, this looked whiter than that. Now with polish, bang, pops right out. Now that's brighter. So hopefully that gives you a little idea of, you know, what compounds and polishes are. I get a ton of emails a day about, you know, what's the difference between compounds and polishes? And one of them, you know, the most basic one is compound generally has more abrasives than polish, but sometimes that doesn't register. One of the things that's kind of important is polish brings back the depth, the shine, and removes those very fine scratches that compound leaves behind. So hopefully this last 2 minutes of video kind of helps you see what I'm talking about. So now this side over here is the duller side. Now this side is the bright and shiny side, but 5 seconds ago it wasn't that case. Some quick overall notes when you're polishing. Now a lot of guys, including myself, will tape off any sensitive areas, especially the rubber areas, just so you don't get any compound in there and then it turns white. Big thing is with the windshield wipers. Now pop them off if you can, or if it's super sensitive and you don't want to go messing with it, you can also just leave them up like this while you're polishing in this area. Another overall kind of broad theme is you want to work from top to bottom, and you want to work from in to out, if that makes sense. And on top to bottom is, as you're doing it, sometimes, especially newer detailers have a tendency to throw products, or sling they call it. And so if it's going to sling anywhere and it's going to sling down, then you'll eventually go back over that area and clean it. But if you work your way up and you're slinging and you're slinging and you're slinging, it doesn't make sense that once you get to the top and start slinging that you have to go back and clean the area that you've already cleaned. It kind of makes sense. So top to bottom, and then in and out. On that last little clip of the video, I showed you this quarter panel on the other side, the driver's side. I would never normally start with that. I'm only doing that because it's a great, it's easy to show on camera. I would normally start from the middle. If I had already done the top, obviously, start from the middle and work my way out. Why? Because if I'm working on the car, sometimes you have a tendency to go like this because your back starts to get sore, and it hurts, especially my back and my knees. Every once in a while you'll bump into this. You want to leave this area down here for the last part in case you in case you've cleaned this already and then you scratch it. It doesn't make any sense. You don't want to keep working over yourself. So top to bottom, in and out, and make sure you think about that next time you're polishing. All right, normally I wouldn't be showing this part, but I know a lot of you have asked what I'm doing with the polisher and the pressure and the speed, and you wanted to know more and more information. So this is going to be a little bit in depth here, but we're going to go over more practical use of the Rupes polisher. So right off the bat, I'm just going to give you some random little things, tidbits here. I love the polisher. I think it's amazing. The only thing that makes me crazy, and it's sort of inconsequential, it doesn't really matter, but the damn cord drives me bonkers because it just doesn't want to straighten out. Is that a big deal? No, it's just I'm being crazy because I'm crazy. So you want to play with this cord a little bit. What happens is it keeps pulling itself out of the my extension cord. Again, not a big deal. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I'm sure a lot of pro detailers have seen it, but it's kind of a little fun thing my father taught me years ago. You take your two cords, right? And normally you just plug it in. You don't want to do that. Take it, make an X, pull it through, then plug it in. Now, in theory, you won't actually pull it out. So anyways, that's a little note on that. What I'm going to do is I got my GoPro set up here, got a GoPro set up there. We're going to work the top of the paint, the top of the car, and basically the roof I'm going to cut into fours. I can't reach the two sides over there because I don't want to scratch the car here, but I'm going to work panel 1 and panel 2, basically half and half. It's about 2 by 2. So what I'm going to do, grab the Rupes right here. All right. Now what I have here is a microfiber cutting pad. Now Rupes makes its own polishing pads and own polishes. There's two reasons why I don't use them. One is I don't have them, and two, I'm comfortable using this stuff, but I hear it's great, and if you're comfortable with it, by all means just swap one of their pads out and use one of their polishes, no problem. Also, you know what, yeah, also they make a washer that goes in here, and I think it's Kevin Brown, who's a really great detailer and a nice guy. Again, I don't have it here just because, for two reasons. One, I don't have it, and two, we talked about the hardness and the softness of the paint in the first part of this very long video. This paint, although it is harder than a normal Ferrari, meaning old 67, 65 Ferraris, they have really soft paint, and it's usually single stage, and we talked about how this has been repainted. So it's harder, but it's not as hard as, let's say, the Cayenne or something new where that washer might be good for me. So in the beginning, if you remember, I said, as I approached this car and I had no history of it and we were being detectives or whatever, I was trying to figure out, or I was thinking to myself, hey, we're going to use the Gros DA just because I like it nice and soft. I don't want to have to go through too hard and really have to be constantly like making sure I don't blow through the paint. That's not a fun feeling to worry about. So I guess the point of the story is, for 99% of the cars, a washer might be a good idea to give this thing even more throw and even more power. But That's the reason why I'm not using it. It's not because it's not good, it's just it's not appropriate for this particular car. Every car is different. So I got my pad. Hopefully you can see with the GoPro, the fibers are nice and sticking up, which is good. I have one of my latest concoctions here of compounds that I'm trying out. Put a little bit on there. All right, I do. Hopefully you can see it with, let's turn that down. Hope you can see. I just like to wipe it in with my hand. Everybody has a little bit of different. You can use a stick, a little, some guys I see use little sticks or whatever. That's cool too. Put it in there. And then what I like to do, and we'll switch over to the GoPros. What I like to do is throw the cord over your shoulder. I know I'm being a little bit more detailed than normal, but I know a ton of people have been asking me about this. I tap it around just a little bit because I like to avoid any slingers. Right now, I don't have tons of tape on here because I've been doing this forever and I know that I'm not going to sling here. And if it does real quick, I'll clean it up. But if you're feeling uncomfortable, definitely put some tape there. And now we got this guy going. Now I'm at 4.5, and one of the big tricks here, specifically with the Rupes, is as it turns on, it throws in different directions. That's what makes it so amazing. But what you do is just before you turn it on, you want to lift up slightly, not off the paint, but you don't want to be putting all your pressure on there because you'll notice that it wobbles, it jumps really kind of weird in the first 2 seconds. So just what I'm going to do is you'll see I'll have my hand like this, not really pulling up, but I'm not pushing down. Does that make sense? So here we go. Now I'm going to put pressure down. I'll work the product in just a little bit. See, I'm going almost no pressure, just to kind of get it in to fill the area in, which is going to be the 2x2. And now I'm going to put a little pressure. And this is about the speed you want to go. Remember yesterday we washed and cleaned them. We used our little brush, we used AMMO Plum and got in here and it looks 1,000 times better. But in between all these little spokes, you can see it's kind of nasty and there's some caked on things and it's just, you can't really get in there anymore with the brushes. So what I like to do is I turn on my steamer, prime it just a little bit, and then you can get in there and clean everything up. Now it's got plenty of pressure to blow out all that gunk. All right, so I finished steaming it and the wheel already looks better. All the gunk that was attached to the back side of these little wire wheels kind of just shot out the back and is on the floor behind the wheel. So that was great. I could just see it, the muck kind of coming off. But what I'm using now is, this is my wheel woolly, the smallest one. And what I do is I use the backside because it's plastic, it's pretty soft. And I take it, and I've already done one wheel with this towel, but I take it and I wrap it in like this. So it's kind of like a bit of a point there, right? And then I take, I have this really good polish here that I've had forever. I just, I don't know. I don't sell it because I don't think anybody would really want it. But if people want it, I'll start putting it in bottles for sure. But this stuff is great. And I take this little part here, and you can also use a wooden, some people use a little wooden stick. That's cool too. And I get in every one of these little spokes. Is it time consuming? Yes, it's almost painfully time consuming, but you'll be able to get behind every one of these little spokes, as well as, I mean, look at that. That was just after one or two little passes. So I will do this for the next half an hour or so and get behind every single one of them. And this will look really, really good. And then I'll do the face of the rim and I'll show you how to do that in the next little clip here. So I got some work ahead of me. Look at the reflection of you know, the wire spokes and whatnot. I did that, and then I ran this guy through with a cloth on it, and then I stopped right here. See all the gunk that's still, I mean, I got it off, but now the aluminum is still kind of gnarled. So if you take your time, this took me about 5 minutes to get all these guys up here. Still got to get back here with that little brush, but you can see the sparkle here, and it's kind of kind of nasty over here. So next I'll just do this. I'll show you really quickly how to do that. It's pretty easy. All right, so before I forget, just to do the lip, it's sort of the same thing. It's not that complicated. I just kind of put it on a rag here, dab it on. This is a microfiber towel, but it's one of my short hair ones, and it's, you know, not one that I would use on the paint ever. So once I'm done with this, I'll throw it away. So I put it on, and then I like to do half the rim. Of course, you can use power tools for this, and there's 100 different tools. I'm just doing it by hand because these wheels are so sensitive and kind of expensive. And I'll show you. So it's turning black. Go back in. Look at that. And you can go back as many times as you want and just kind of keep going and going and going until you get to that desired level. But like anything else, detailing, you can be here for days. That's really up to you. But there you go. That's just one little side, and then there's this one, so it's about half done. And I'll continue this half, and then I'll pull the camera in. But that's how you do it. You can do the chrome pieces. You can do the chrome here and the exhaust. But once I finish this, which is its own little project in itself, I'll show you one little quick tip on the inside of the car. And then I'll pull it outside, and we'll be done with this one. This is a long video, but man, there's lots of cool little intricate parts, and hopefully you're picking some stuff up, and it's helping you with your car. All right, so now we're on the interior of the car, kind of the last little step in this particular detail. Now, if you can see in here, it doesn't look too bad. The big thing is a lot of this has seen better days, and it's some parts in here are original. So the big thing that you want to try to do, or the tip when you're working on kind of older leather that is a bit cracked, is make sure you spray your interior cleaner into the brush, and then just lightly scrub it with your scrub brush and come after it with a microfiber towel. Now, that's what you do if it's dirty. If it's not, and you're just trying to quickly clean it up, like I always say, just spray it a little bit in the microfiber towel and just gently wipe. The big thing here to be concerned about is that when it's cracked and kind of old and seen better days, you don't want to go too hard with it, because what's going to happen is the color in the leather is going to come out of it, and then you're really going to degrade it much faster than you would without even touching it, if that makes sense. The other little tidbit to kind of concentrate on is putting tons and tons of interior, what I call mousse, or interior moisturizer, on the leather. What's going to happen is some parts are going to absorb and some parts aren't. You really want to massage that in so that it absorbs into it, and over the next few minutes, especially with really dry and brittle seats, they're just going to keep penetrating. So what you're going to need to do is kind of put the leather conditioner on, close the doors, go do something else in the car, and come back, and then look at the spots. And some spots will be blotchy, some will be shiny, some will be, so once it's saturated, it's saturated. But a lot of times it's not as easy as a new car, where you just kind of put it on, let it sit for a few minutes, and then take it right off, and it's got this nice matte finish, and it's pliable. This here is a little bit more tricky, so trickier. So you need to kind of concentrate on that. So that's pretty much all that's really going on here. I need to vacuum, and I already have the ozone machine in here to kind of kill the smoke smell, but it's looking pretty good. I'm going to pull it out in a few minutes and show you what it looks like, and we'll wrap this up. All right, guys, we're all set. We finished up. The car looks spectacular. I'll walk around and show you a few things. At the end of the day, this is a fun experience. I love working on these amazing cars. This one's super rare, and I'm really privileged and honored, and I don't know, just very grateful that I get to do this. Hopefully I shared a few things that could help you in the cars that you do. Any questions, of course, shoot me an email at larry@ammonyc.com. Lots of fun stuff going on this summer. And if you have any questions about anything I did, or if I can be helpful, shoot me an email. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.